Welcome to Acts 2 and 42.
We were the pit bulls, and at one point that stood on what we were taught because we believed it. We believed not only what we were taught, but we believed in the person teaching it. So to oppose the idea is one, to oppose the individual, because as Jordan Peterson points out, ideas have people. People don't have ideas. They're possessed by the idea. They're possessed by the belief. So to oppose that is to oppose them. And not only that, but also to oppose their leader, because it's the leader who they're esteeming, because the leaders brought it to them, So it's literally tearing someone's worldview apart by simply saying, well, that's not what the Bible says, or the Bible actually says this, or even just asking, well, where is that at? Though I understand where it comes from, I think it's very unhealthy, for the body. It leaves us at a point where we can't have conversation about anything that we even remotely disagree on, because no one's willing to consider whether they are wrong. It's just, well, yeah, they're not willing to consider if they're wrong, but they're very eager to tell you where you're wrong. Everyone's sitting in their respective corners of the room saying, come over here, instead of going to the middle and trying to look at the room as a whole. So I see what she sees. I experience what she experiences. It's frustrating, but I think that because people aren't used to being wrong and reconsidering their positions for things that are spiritual, for things that are matters of belief, it's even harder for them to even begin, to consider. If they're not going to be wrong in other matters, then being wrong is something that is so pivotal, such as faith. That's definitely not something where they're going to even begin to conceive.
Right. Yeah. The one difficult part is that you touched on is the fact that not only are we talking about faith, but we're talking about a lot of times what our faith leader, whoever that is, has told us. So we have confidence that our faith is right, but we have confidence in our leader, mostly rightfully so, in many cases. But what you said was crazy, because we are kind of in our own corners thinking the other person should come over to us. And I know from like stepping back and saying, well, they've got their views and probably for good reason. I've got mine for good reason. And it's like, so then I start thinking like, I don't know, philosophically or whatever, we're like, how do we determine what's right? How do we determine who should come over to what corner, or if there's a middle that we should both be coming to? But unfortunately, everyone has to be thinking like that and be interested in doing that. Otherwise, you're just one guy saying, where should we go? And the other person's like, yo, I'm just in my corner. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, but, and I think I've told you, T, that, I do these, remote conversations with people that I haven't usually. And at least the first one, if not more, are like fact-finding missions. I want to hear from you. I want to get to know you. So there's going to be many, many ideas that I hear that I don't address, that I oppose.
Mm-hmm.
I hear them, I oppose them, and I, okay, got you. Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. And I'm saying, right, like, I comprehend what you're saying. The thought is established. At least I thought, looking back, I'm like, oh man, they were saying something altogether different, which is crazy. And that's a life lesson, that what you hear in the moment is not always what people are saying. So all of this has to do with it, but it's really weird. Like our preconditions are to arguments and fighting and debate and ideas, taking hold of us and polarizing us to extremes. And there's a lot of room in the middle. And just talking with Pastor Phil recently and with Chris, I use Phil as an example when talking to Chris, and I'll use both of them examples. I enjoy the discussion. I don't think we'll agree on all things. I don't. I'm prepared for that, and I'm okay with that. And all I'm trying to share is, look, there's an invitation. You can tell me that something I'm saying is not biblically right in your mind. And I'll go check out what you're saying. But I don't cast you off for saying it. You know, I think there was a day I would have dealt with it the same way. And even still, I don't know if you guys deal with this. You know, Sheree, I know you and I, like when we get deep into a discussion, then you feel yourself pulled back towards your position. You know what I mean? And it's like the tendency is to like kind of hear less, you know, because you're defending. You know what I mean? And when you start defending, you start hearing less, you know. But anyway, it's perceived as argumentative, or it's perceived as quarrel or beef. I think what I told Chris was these opposing positions. We're talking about, you know, Christians opposing each other or opposing the Bible in this sense. But that opposition exists whether you deal with it or not. And in the scriptures, I think we're encouraged to try to deal with it, you know, to try to address it and try to talk and try to reason and to search the scriptures, to go to the scriptures and verify these things. I think it's healthy to talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like, period. I think what happens is when there's unhealthy dialogue or discourse, it makes people reject the idea of dialogue and discourse, period. And it's not that's the problem. It's you and me. It's us. That's the problem. So there's plenty of people that do it well, right? And we just need to figure out how to do it well and how to approach it. Side note, I don't think wanting to talk to people about their belief in the Bible, or excuse me, their beliefs, and that's not what the Bible says. The idea of addressing it, I don't think is the same thing as expecting minds to be changed. And I know, you know, in all my recent conversations, those two things seem to be mistaken for the same. They seem to be conflated as one and the same. That if I think that we should talk about it, then I mean that I think someone should change their mind. No. I think we should all say the same thing. And those of us that do, great, awesome. But I think we should all strive to say the same thing, go to the book. But that doesn't mean someone's going to change their mind. But that just because someone doesn't change their mind doesn't mean that's not still the way you handle it.